Well, welcome everyone to today's show. This is Dark News with your host, Kristov Atlas. Today is September 2nd, 2014. Today we're going to be talking about the latest market prices. We added a new cryptocurrency to our chart, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And we will recap about our story last week concerning Ripple. And if you have any questions at the end, we will answer those as well. You can send your questions in to the show through Twitter at Dark News Show. And you can also use the hashtag DarkNews. And you can send your questions in anytime during the week, and they'll be answered at the next episode. If you are enjoying the show, you should send a few bits to one of our tip addresses. This is what allows us to actually spend time on the show as opposed to the many other projects that I'm involved in. We take Bitcoin, Darkcoin, Dogecoin, and I'll accept other coins if you prefer that as well. We also have a monthly subscription that you can do through PayPal and whatnot in the form of Patreon. So with that said, let's take a look at today's market prices. These are the market prices for September 2nd, 2014. So cryptocurrencies overall lost about 5% in the last week, down from 7.27 billion to 6.9 billion. And precious metals and cryptocurrencies together lost about 1.9% overall. The dollar gained about 2% relative to silver and gold, and 5% relative to Bitcoin. Darkcoin, on the other hand, gained about 5% relative to the dollar and is still up on the dollar about 63% since we started talking about Darkcoin on the show. Darkcoin currently sitting at number 8, just past Namecoin, still sitting below Dogecoin. It was at number 9 last week, so that's a 1 rank improvement since last week. Monero just lost a little bit of value, but just a tiny bit, about 0.4% relative to the dollar, and still sitting at number 11. And Bitcoin, another crypto note-based currency, is sitting at number 17 and had a bit of a tough week, lost about 35% relative to the dollar. Now, the new cryptocurrency that we've added to this tracker is BitcoinDark, and we'll talk about some of the specifications for BitcoinDark at the moment, but it's already sitting at number 12 in the cryptocurrency rankings, and you can currently buy about 0.2 BitcoinDark with every US dollar. XCurrency still sitting at number 15, lost just about 3% relative to the dollar in the last week. Cloakcoin lost about 5%, still sitting at number 39. Anoncoin actually had a decent week, sitting up at 52. That's up from number 62 in the rankings, and it gained about 18% relative to the dollar. Fedora Coin still sitting at a pretty low ranking, number 153, no change in its value over the last week. And finally, 22 LR rounds on sale and no significant changes for the other types of ammo. Now, let's take a look at some of the top altcoins that are sitting below Litecoin. Now, the response to covering Ripple in terms of these charts in the future has been pretty unanimous. People have said drop Ripple from these charts. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Since there is no real market creation of the coin, you can't mine the coin, the number of coins is predetermined. We'll get into some of the details of that in just a few minutes, but I just wanted to show that as predicted last week, we expected to see a correction, a downward correction in the overall market cap value of Ripple, and that's exactly what we've seen over the last week. But that's enough about Ripple. Now, most of the cryptocurrencies on this chart moved either sideways or downwards a little bit. BitShares, PureCoin, etc. The only winners this last week have been BitcoinDark and a little bit of an improvement for Dogecoin, and Next has gone up a little bit as well. So that will do it for the dark market prices for September 2nd. Now let's talk about Ripple and exactly how they release coins. So this is from the Ripple Labs website. And basically what they say is they created at the very onset of Ripple 100 billion XRP. That's the, I guess, official currency of Ripple. And at first, those were all held by the people at Ripple Labs. So it's kind of a central bank approach, although there's no violence or coercion involved, of course. And they are letting that XRP leak out of Ripple Labs to the rest of the market slowly over time. And as of July 31st, there's about 28.9 billion that are in the open market, and the remaining 71 billion are still held by Ripple Labs. And why do they ever release XRP? Well, they give it away or they sell it away or whatever to various people that are contributing in their estimation positively to the growth of the Ripple network. So that's certain kinds of users. They occasionally have giveaways for XRP. Also developers, funding bounties and so forth, security bugs, merchants based on the retail transaction volume that they're bringing to the network, gateways, which are these kind of nodes in the Ripple network that act as financial institutions and allow people to exchange all of the different assets that are exchanged in the Ripple network. And of course, also people that are working for Ripple Labs as well. It appears that some of them are paid in XRP. So as for the jump in market cap last week, I guess it was not so much that Ripple issued a bunch of XRP in the last week, but simply that they must have updated some kind of tracking website to reflect what the current holdings were, and this was pushed out to various websites like coinmarketcap.com. And so the total number of XRP that's ever going to exist, as far as we can tell, is going to be that 100 billion mark, and it's being slowly released into the open market. So it's a very kind of queer approach, unusual approach for a cryptocurrency, and quite different from most. But that's basically how that works. So it's not a matter of Ripple printing more coins per se. They've already got the total number of coins, and they're letting it release or leak out into the open market slowly over time to fulfill these other needs. I think it's fine for cryptocurrency developers or foundations or whatever to hold some of the coins and then release them, to pay off bounties and stuff like that. I'm not so sure about this pre-mining kind of approach, but there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just not the way that I would prefer to run a cryptocurrency, and it does seem like it's a fixed value of 100 billion Ripple. So we added BitcoinDark to the charts today. Let's just briefly talk about what BitcoinDark is. So this was announced on the Bitcoin Talk forums on July 9th. By the way, BitcoinDark, terrible name for a cryptocurrency, but I think there's something to it, so let's ignore that. It is a SHA-256 mined coin, which I think is interesting. Perhaps that is to encourage people to take their rusty Bitcoin mining rigs, dust them off, and put them back to work, and I think that could build some interest in the cryptocurrency in the short term. It's a proof of work, proof of stake hybrid, and I'm not sure if or when the proof of work the proof of work phase ends. I'm not sure about that. So let's look at some of the underlying technologies that they talk about for BitcoinDark. So their ideals are decentralization, openness, and anonymity. And the technology that's most interesting to me is their anonymity technology, which they call the teleport technology, but they also have a number of things going on as well. Some different features that I guess they're adopting from the next currency, and a Turing-complete scripting language. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Dividends that are paid out to BTC, BitcoinDark holders but the dividends are paid out in Bitcoin, which is quite interesting. I'd be curious if that is possible because of the fact that it's SHA-256 mined, or how that works. I'm not really sure. Or perhaps they just sell BitcoinDark on the open market, convert that to Bitcoin, and then pay that out to the holders of BitcoinDark. And apparently they're also working on debit cards for fiat withdrawal as well. I must say that especially in the US and countries like the US, I'm quite skeptical that they would get any traction with creating an anonymous fiat withdrawal card, because it's going to have to necessarily interface with the banking system. So that's pretty much a no. So the teleport technology, I guess we'll just read a little bit of this. There's a whole paper talking about it, which they call their dark paper. I've started reading it, but I haven't gotten all the way through it, so I won't try to school you on how a teleport works. But so let's see. So anonymous teleporting of funds occurs off the blockchain, but is verified using the blockchain. So the general idea is they're doing these off-chain. They're doing this off-chain accounting to make it so that the transactions are not traced from address to address on the blockchain, and at any given point in time you can kind of reclaim these coins that have been teleported and have the blockchain verify that the coins are legit, that they haven't been double spent and so forth. The question that I still have is exactly how you can trust people until that verification takes place. I'm not clear if or how that would be the case, but looking forward to learning some more about it in the near future. So off-chain accounting is the general idea here, and an interesting thing that they pointed out in the paper was that this teleport technology is something, I think it requires additional secure channels of communication, but it is a kind of technology that potentially could be adapted to other cryptocurrencies as well, including Bitcoin. And so I'm always a big fan of these privacy-centric technologies that could be brought back into the mainline cryptocurrency as well and extended into other cryptocurrencies in a pretty quick fashion. I think stealth addresses are a pretty good example of that, and even CoinJoin, I think, would work in quite a wide variety of cryptocurrencies, where something like ring signatures really require some substantial changes to the cryptocurrency. Same thing for zero cash, etc. So let's continue. So they have some other planned features that they're borrowing from Next, a multi-gateway that would allow you to move cryptocurrencies in and out of the Next asset exchange. So I guess they're going to kind of integrate that into their client somehow. A decentralized marketplace, Instant DEX, a fully decentralized peer-to-peer real-time trustless trading environment, allow for the trading of any Next asset, BitcoinDark or Bitcoin Decrypto. I don't know what that means. And also Private Bet, which allows people to make bets directly with each other in a decentralized way. No personal information required from customers, only accept crypto. And it will be combined with the BitcoinDark teleport privacy technology. And last page here, some other features planned for BitcoinDark. They're saying that part of the plan for BitcoinDark is to support other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And so they're looking to not necessarily just compete with other cryptocurrencies, but make them more useful. And they have talked about making the teleport technology kind of interchangeable with other cryptocurrencies. And they may even do this for free for a period of time. There's a poll going on in the BitcoinDark community concerning this choice right now. Dividends in Bitcoin paid to BitcoinDark holders. So a percentage of revenues generated from the instant decentralized exchange, and the teleport fees will be paid to Bitcoin holders. Payments can be made in any currency or asset to the associated address in the BitcoinDark wallet's built-in asset exchange. Okay. BitcoinDark is the only cryptocurrency that will reward holders with income denominated in Bitcoin. I find that to be kind of interesting because they're sort of recognizing, like, look, we're not trying to replace Bitcoin, we're looking to kind of attach like a barnacle alongside of it, perhaps make Bitcoin more useful, and kind of interoperate with Bitcoin. And I think that is a reasonable, smart approach. If any cryptocurrency says that it's going to replace Bitcoin, you should be very skeptical of this claim. They have a very massive network effect to compete with, and it would really take a pretty phenomenal improvement over Bitcoin in order to replace it because of that network effect. So that's important to keep in mind. And these anonymous debit cards, similar to a prepaid debit and MasterCard. Perhaps that's achievable for very small amounts, you know, $25, $50, maybe $100 card, but hard for me to imagine that this would be doable. Interoperating with the legacy banking system in any larger volume. And lastly, they have this idea for a Turing-complete scripting language that would be written in C. And this would allow for enthusiasts to write nodes with specific node-specific trade bots, encrypted communications, access to website APIs, and Anoncoin's RPC interface. Now, anytime that you talk about there being scripting in a cryptocurrency, of course, Bitcoin has its own scripting language that permits for a variety of types of smart contracts. Satoshi originally had a number of different operations that you could do in this scripting language, and since then, a lot of those have been disabled, and they hope to re-enable them in the future as they sort of carefully design them and vet them and make sure that nothing goes wrong through the use of those particular opcodes, as they're called. So whenever someone is talking about a Turing-complete scripting language, as Ethereum is, the question is, how do you keep people from doing really bad stuff? Because a Turing-complete language can run any program. That's what Turing-complete means, is that it's a complete set of code that you can run any computer program on. And Ethereum has addressed this by creating a pretty carefully designed, specialized programming language that's supposed to be as secure as possible. Turing-complete, but not and similar to C in some ways, but it's not going to have all this like memory manipulation commands written into it and all this kind of stuff. Whereas C is probably the worst language in the world in terms of making it easy for vulnerabilities to be encoded into the programs that you write. It's a very beautiful language, very fast, etc. But as far as creating opportunities for vulnerabilities, C is probably the worst language in the world. And I would guess that a very, very large percentage, especially of memory corruption-based vulnerabilities that are in all the applications around the world, are based on applications written in C. So I'm curious what they will do to try and secure against that. This description is a bit vague about exactly what the scope is of this Turing-complete scripting language. So that's about all I have to say about BitcoinDark. The last thing that the last thought I have about that is there's a lot of features that they're pitching here. It reminds me of the conversation that I had with some of the Blackcoin development team and team members at a conference recently. I think there is this tendency and this temptation for some cryptocurrency teams to try to throw everything in the kitchen sink at their cryptocurrency, to shove as many features in there as possible. I think next is certainly a cryptocurrency that has a whole lot of features in it, and there's a number of problems with this. I think that it weakens the overall design of the system. It definitely opens itself up to more vulnerabilities because complexity is it invites vulnerabilities. Really, the more features that you try to throw in to any application or system, the more vulnerabilities that are going to crop up. And the majority of these cryptocurrencies have not been heavily vetted at this point. They haven't had serious code reviewers and pen testers hacking away at them. And so, and every once in a while, one of them does in a anonymous fashion. They find some vulnerability, and then they steal a bunch of coins using the vulnerability. So that's another problem. And I think in many ways, it's not really about adding utility to the cryptocurrency. Adding more features to the cryptocurrency does not mean that the currency is more useful. If it dilutes the vision and the purpose, the original purpose of the cryptocurrency, then adding more features is not better. You could, if you had a web browser and you installed every possible conceivable plugin into your web browser, it would have a lot more capability than it had before, but it would be slow and clunky and ugly and very difficult to use because of all the clutter and the plugins that are conflicting with each other and all this other stuff. And so I guess my caution to cryptocurrency developers and people who are speculating on cryptocurrencies is be very careful about the temptation to shove a lot of functionality into the cryptocurrency, especially when it comes to security, because cryptocurrencies are some of the most sensitive, delicate pieces of software. They have to be the most secure out of all the software that you're using. And like I said, adding more functionality does not necessarily make it more useful, but it does invite more opportunities for vulnerabilities to crop up. So if I had to make a snap judgment about speculating on BitcoinDark right now, I would say, I don't know. It's already at number 12. It's already got a market cap of several $1 million. I imagine that when it was first announced, it was probably a pretty good opportunity. But at this point, I see them coming up with all these different features that they want to toss in there, and considering that it's already pretty high, now doesn't really feel to me, as an extremely immature speculator, doesn't really feel to me like a good buying opportunity. If you're keeping an eye on BitcoinDark and you want to buy in, I would look for some pullbacks in the price. And I must say that as someone who has been, covering altcoins for a while, in particular privacy-centric altcoins, these pullbacks are completely inevitable. There's no cryptocurrency that just stays, way at the top for an extended period of time. Darkcoin was very dominant for a while. It's fallen quite a bit since then. Not because of anything particular that Darkcoin has done wrong. It's just this is part of the market dynamic right now amongst altcoins. Monero down about 5% since we first started tracking it on the show. Bitcoin is down 136% relative to the dollar since we started tracking on the show. Cloakcoin has lost 240% relative to the dollar since we first started tracking on the show. Anoncoin 78%, Fedoracoin 420%. So if you look at the track record of these coins, for the most part, they're extremely volatile, and the majority of them trend down in the long run. And it's also very difficult to try and judge what their long-term behavior is going to be like, because you need to know, how good are the plans for the development team, how viable are their plans, how how possible is it for them to keep up their rate of development that they've set for themselves? If there's just one guy that's doing all the work for a year and working 18-hour days or whatever, that's not something that's sustainable. And then you need to try and consider all the other currencies that are competing with it, and then currencies that haven't even been announced yet or invented yet. Basically impossible. I think that some cryptocurrencies have a bit more obvious staying power than others. As soon as I started tracking Fedora Coin on the show, I said, this is not something that's going to last. And then I keep it on the charts just to sort of remind people, like, look, the fact that you have a new coin, that there's a lot of excitement about it, that they have a good sales pitch or whatever, doesn't mean anything. It can completely fail and linger at very, very low price levels. And at this point, Fedora Coin is never going to make a comeback and be the next Darkcoin or whatever it is, right? It's never going to be Next Coin or any of those coins. So I think that's all pretty important to keep in mind. So yeah. Bottom line on BitcoinDark, if you're looking to speculate, I'd wait for those pullbacks and keep in mind that it could continue to pull back indefinitely. I almost wonder if the best strategy these days is to just look for coins that have been pretty recently announced. They have a sub $1 million market cap, and buy then, wait for it to go up 2 or 3 times, sell, and then never think about it again. That may be the best way to do it. I don't know. Maybe someone can create an altcoin trading robot and let me know how that works out. So, and I guess I'll just give a very brief update on my work concerning Darkcoin. Right now I'm working on, I guess we'd call it a white paper or a document, looking at the design of Darkcoin, addressing some of the different potential weaknesses that come up around these denominated coin join based cryptocurrencies, and how DarkSend does or does not address these different weaknesses and attacks and so forth. And I think it's coming together pretty good. I'm coming close to finishing that, and then I will be putting that out and also wrapping up the documentation that I have for code review stuff as well in the relatively near future. So, with that said, that will be it for today for Dark News. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, feel free to send a few tips to the show, and that will really, really help provide the finances that we need to spend time on the show and do all the research. It takes hours and hours to prepare each episode. It takes several hours more to edit the episodes that are edited. So your support for the show, if you're enjoying it, is hugely appreciated and needed. So that will be it for today, and until next week, have a very dark week.